The purpose of this video is to explain in full the full bleed project. So far you have watched a few videos on this page, and this is the part 2 of the first video. So make sure you watch these in order. It'll make the most sense. So you learned a little bit about the project and just kind of had some fun making a quick design for it. And then the rest of these videos teach you how to set up the documents in full for full bleed printing, and then how to measure and mount work. And by the time you're watching this video, there'll be a total of at least 3 of these measure and mount works, and then the video that I'm making right now will be located here. So let's look at the handout, which is kind of weird saying now in an online class. Sometimes I think I just refer to it as project details. So feel free to read through all of this, but I'm just going to point out the stuff that I want to cover here. We covered all of this in the first video, and then except for really all of this, cleaning up the document so that nothing sticks beyond the bleed. In one of the earlier videos on this page on the Prof. Steve G website, I showed you how to extend this A out to the bleed by making this little piece, and we cut it off nice and clean right at the bleed. So you want to do that with all of your graphic elements. So what I showed you in the earlier videos would work for something like this, either using the eraser tool or the Pathfinder tool. One thing you have to remember is if you have type that extends beyond the bleed, before you can use the eraser or the Pathfinder tool, you have to create outlines of the type. So what you do is you select it, then you go to type, create outlines, and now this is just like any other shape. Now if you find yourself in the rare occasion where the Pathfinder or the eraser will not get rid of things, and one of such thing would be a photograph. Sometimes things with special effects on them, like drop shadows and stuff that come to the edges, wouldn't work either. I will have a separate video made for that process, which is called masking, and you'll find that under Software Help, Illustrator, and then masking. Okay, and then as we talked about, then once you have that document all cleaned up, you would, as you've seen before, make a copy of that, make that artboard 8.5 by 11, including your crop marks, and then you would double check everything on the document, make sure it's perfect, then get just one printed. So if you're going to a place like Kinko's, bring your ruler with you, have them print one copy, put your ruler on it, make sure that the crop marks are 7 and 9 inches apart like you would expect. In other words, make sure that they didn't scale your document somehow. Typically, if you make it on an 8.5 by 11 PDF, they can't screw it up, but anything less than that, there's a good chance that they would. So in other words, if you give them your commercial printer file that just has the 7 by 9 artboard, chances are it will come out wrong. And then you will trim one of the printouts using the crop marks, and then you will print both printouts on a 15 by 20 black mat board so that there is equal distance on all sides of the document. Now, if I were you right now, what I would do is take out your 15 by 20 black mat board, or even just on a sketch pad, draw out a fictitious miniature version of one and see what that means to you, how you would place those documents and how far apart they would be. Now, this is a visual of what that would look like with your own design, of course. So you have the full-size print that includes the crop marks on the left, and then your design trimmed to size on the right. Now, the key thing, though, is you need to figure out what those distances are in between the documents. So everything being equal distance apart means that if you were to measure distance A, it's going to be the same and the same. And then distance B is the same as distance B here, and the same with C. Hopefully, applying a little bit of critical thinking to the previous videos you watched, you'll be able to come up with this. We will either talk about this in class, or it'll be like a little mini assignment for you to actually tell me what A, B, and C are equal to, assuming the correct size of these and that your board is 20 inches wide by 15 inches tall. And when you turn this project in for an online class following the instructions inside of Canvas announcements, you will not only turn in your Illustrator document, but you will also take 3 photographs of the black mat board in the following manner. You'll take a full-size photograph so that the entire board shows against a non-distracting background. So maybe place it against the wall in your home and move other stuff out of the way, and just take it so that it is, let's say that this is the edges of your photograph. Maybe something like that there, where you have, just a little bit of room around the edges of it, but I want to see the whole entire mat board. And then you'll take somewhat of a close-up of the mounted paper from the left side and from the right side. So what that would mean is this one, I don't want to see the edges of the mat board, but I do want to see the edges of the paper. So somewhere like right in between those two extremes, which might look something like that from the left. And I'll try to demonstrate the angle to shoot this at. But basically, if you were right against the same wall that this was, you would just move out a little bit. Not quite to a 45-degree angle, and definitely not straight on. The idea is to show me that this is mounted flat against the mat board, and that there's no wrinkles, and that the paper cut is nice and clean, or I should say the cut of the paper. And then you'll do the same thing from this side, and because this one's smaller, you can get in a little bit closer, but I do want to see the top and the bottom of your printout just nice and close. And hopefully I remembered to show you that in the last of the mounting project videos, meaning the angle to take that shot at. And since you will probably be uploading these files, let's keep them under 3 megabyte. And if you don't know what that means or how to check that or make them smaller if they're bigger, I have a separate video made for that, which a link to that should be in Canvas announcements for the date that this project is due. But I'd also like to show you how to find it just in case you need it for something else. You go to the Prof. Steve G website, go to instructional videos, go to turn in files, and it should be near the bottom of this area or this page. And there it is, checking and reducing image size for post discussions, and that video will be embedded in there by the time you're watching this video. And then I want you to know that I will not be grading your design on this project. Instead, I'm stepping back, looking at the overall presentation that you put together, and your ability to follow the steps, the nice clean measuring, clean cutting, and mounting up of the project, nice flat gluing, and keeping the whole thing clean.